today I thought it would be fun to make artwork. Possibly large graph paper. It's kind of hard to see, but this is essentially one very, very large sheet of graph paper. So instead of trying to work with that massive piece of paper, I cut it into some little squares so I can do my planning designs on that instead of having to work with that horrible thing. So I'm not quite sure what to do with this. I'm thinking maybe either some kind of landscape or a character design. So I'm going to start out with my landscape idea. One of my ideas was maybe I could do a checkerboard pattern and have one half of the checkerboard be a nighttime scene and the other half be a daytime scene. Actually, you know what? I'm going to swatch my materials first. So this paper is pretty thin, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to use colored pencils, but I also have alcohol markers here, which I'd honestly rather use, but I don't know if they'll work. So this particular marker is the Spectrum Noir. I do not remember which set they are, but they have a bullet nib and a chisel nib on the other end. Okay, that's going down surprisingly well. I thought it would just... Okay, it does bleed a lot, but see what happens. That's holding up surprisingly well. It bleeds a lot, but the paper handles it better than I thought it would. Let's grab another color. Not the best. Oh, you know what? It gets see-through when it's wet. Ooh, not good, not good. Let's see how it blends. Okay. Oh, yikes. Okay, that's not terrible. That's a pretty decent blend, actually. Let's see what happens if I use a lighter color. Okay, something else I'm noticing is instead of being printed on with like printer ink, these lines are some kind of ink resistant material, so that kind of messes things up a bit. Don't really like how that's going down. Yeah, I don't think. Look how dirty it is. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus. Apparently not, but it's pretty messy and you could see the pattern through it, so I think the markers are probably out, which is quite unfortunate because I had some marker ideas in mind. Alright, colored pencils it is. Gosh, this paper is such a weird texture. It's smooth. It's smoother than normal printer paper for some reason. Okay, that works, I think. Alright, so colored pencils it is. I'm actually going to swatch all the colors I have right here just to see how they all look on this paper. Didn't see how it works over the lines. Okay, so the markers didn't cover up the graph paper lines, but the colored pencil actually does, so that's kind of weird. That's looking pretty good. I'm not going to swatch all my colors because I think that's a pretty good representation of how they're going to look. So put that piece to the side and let's try to design something cool here. So I like the landscape idea, but I'm not sure what kind of landscape would actually suit that style. So I think I'm gonna start with another idea I had, which was to use the squares as windows and maybe do like the wall of a really funny building with different shapes of windows and stuff. Now I'm kind of thinking it might be cool to do two windows kind of offset and have one show like a night scene and one show a day scene. I don't know if that is silly or not. See, the only problem with this is it's really flat and I don't feel like it actually uses the squares. I don't know, I'm just gonna put in some designs with color and see what happens. Okay, so there's one idea. Sort of like that. I think I could play around with this more, maybe change the shape of the windows. I'd still kind of like to go with the oddly shaped window. I think that might be kind of fun and quirky, especially if they show something different. I'm also not sure if it would be fun to do like maybe the inside of a house instead. I'll go back to that idea. But next, my other idea was I could sketch a character, only my thought was, what if I made a really round character and then kind of like cut out squares, if that makes sense. So let's just say and then what I wanted to do, and it might work out better with a bigger piece of paper, but what I want to do is take the squares and kind of like cut out pieces of her, if that makes sense. So like cut out some here, maybe let's just say the squares are smaller and go like something like that. Something like that. Maybe come back down over here. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think it might be cool. And then if I were to do the background a different color maybe, I'm not sure about that. Anyways, next idea. Oh, this is my last piece of paper, so better be good. So another idea I had was, what if I, instead of playing with the squares, what if I just used the color of the square of the lines to design something? So I'm not sure how interesting that would be. Ooh, what if I did a person like sitting on the lines? That might be cute. I think what I'm gonna go with, I really like this idea of somebody from one part of the lines talking to somebody on the other part of the lines. And I think I'm going to combine that with the window idea and have him sitting on a window up here, maybe even being partially inside of the window. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do that. But having him out here and then having her down here on her own window. And I think that might be cute. So, while my camera battery was dying, I sort of finished up the sketch, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and give them outfits now. So I'm thinking this is going to be my little elf characters, so I'll give them ears, cute little elf ears. And let's see, for her, I want her to have a side part and maybe hair kind of like flows down her back like that and comes across the side of her head, sort of like that, and okay, and then his tough choice. I'm just gonna make it kind of normal, pulled back sort of look. Just kind of define his forehead a bit. So I think he's looking down, so his head needs to be angled down a bit. Put his hair behind him, maybe a little bit falling onto his shoulders. And I think that's a pretty good sketch. I'm gonna cut out a bigger piece of paper and get started on the actual sketch. So with that, I went ahead and got into the sketch. So to start out, something I really wanted to work on was to do differently shaped windows. I think in my sketch with the two people sitting on the separate windows, I'd done them the same size. I could be wrong. But I thought it would be a little more interesting for the piece if they were, one was tall and one was narrow. Another change I made was I changed the female character's head angle to make it look like she was a little more on the shy side. So instead of looking at him directly, she's kind of looking off to the side, like she's not quite comfortable looking him right in the eye. So to make them interact a little bit more, I thought it would be fun to have him passing her a ladder, just so they weren't sitting in separate windows without any kind of, well, interaction. lastly, I just added in some plants to fill up some of the empty spaces. Okay, so here's the finished sketch. I went ahead and inked the faces already because they're really tiny and hard to see. But basically what we have here is this guy's up in this window, she's down in this window, he's passing on the ladder. I added a few vines here and a tree here just to fill up the space, but other than that stuff, the rest of it is going to stay the grid pattern. Okay, it has been a whole while since I worked on this project, but I went ahead and finished the line art off camera because I didn't really have a good workspace, so I actually ended up changing my workspace around, as you can see, and I have better lighting. So next step is just to do the colors. Something else I did was I made a little swatch of the colors I wanted to use and sort of laid out the color scheme. So next step is just to color it. So with my color scheme in this, I tried to keep it a really brown and green theme, so the plants would match the people and the whole thing would pull together really nicely. And I shaded with blue, so it would kind of look like the shadows on the graph paper were from outside source, not quite in their environment, to really push the look of it being on graph paper. And a lot of the way I mixed some colors in this picture was I used the ones that I'd already set aside to mix ones I needed, and I think that worked out really well. did end up having to put down a white placemat after a while because the texture of my nice pretty wood desk was messing up the colored pencil texture. So here we have me just kind of filling in some black and white pen to make some certain areas pop, like the plants in this case. And I also go over their faces with white in just a second to sort of separate them from the background. And with that, I finished it up. So here we have the finished project. Some things I'm not super fond of are the colored pencil texture. I would have liked it to be a little more smooth than it turned out. And some of the shadows didn't turn out quite the best. And the contrast between the characters and the paper and their backgrounds weren't the best. But I do like the color scheme. I'm really happy with the atmosphere of this piece, and the composition was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more of my art, you can find me on Tumblr and Instagram as Mavariel. For updates on new videos and other fun stuff, check out my Twitter at MavarielArt. If you'd like to support me, check out my Ko-fi. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Let me know in the comments if you like this video, and let me know what other kinds of videos you'd like to see. See you in the next one!